I remember dying. What I don't understand is why I woke up in a body that was already dying. The first thing I felt was warmth. Not the comforting kind. The suffocating kind. The kind that presses in from every side and tells your body it's running out of time. My name is Zhu Xiuqiang. I had a company. I had a daughter I loved more than breathing. I had a life that someone else decided to take from me. And now I was a bear and a male, freshly finished with the one task nature ever assigned me, swimming through darkness inside a lamp nest, with maybe half a day left to live. This is how it ends? No. I refused that. I screamed into the silence of my own mind, demanding answers. Demanding something. And then, impossibly, absurdly, something answered. A system. A panel. Numbers floating in the black behind my compound eyes. I stared at the values. Decimals. Pitiful. Embarrassing decimals. Ding. This value is more befitting your ant-like status. I would have laughed if I had lungs for it. But as a Zerg team, that's your advantage. Strive to expand your team, and you can establish yourself in this world. A team. It was talking about a team, and I couldn't even stand up straight. My body was freezing at the edges, energy draining by the second. I pressed myself into the dirt and mud of the nest wall, letting the dark coat me, and I watched. 2 worker ants moved nearby or unhurried, enormous to my new eyes, carrying food with the efficiency of creatures who had never once questioned their purpose. I had a purpose now too. I covered myself in mud. I matched their rhythm. I fell into their column. And I started carrying eggs. The eggs were warm and heavy against my legs. I didn't hesitate, I couldn't afford to. While I moved, I pressed my mouthparts carefully against the surface of one egg and drew in what I needed. Fluid. Energy. Life. Borrowed quietly from something that would never miss it. It wasn't elegant. Nothing about this new existence was. But the warmth spread through me, and for the first time since waking up in this body, I thought, I can survive this. The storage room. That was my next thought. These ants produced hundreds of eggs every day, and those eggs required food, which meant food was being stored somewhere deeper in the nest. If I could get inside, I could eat properly, recover fully, and start thinking clearly. I made it to the entrance of the storage room, and then the ground shook. Not literally, but the column around me shifted, stiffened, and through the entrance came ants with heads that seemed almost too large for their bodies. Soldier ants. The kind built for enforcement, not labor. I stopped, retreated into the rhythm of the workers. Let them pass. Lucky. I hadn't stolen yet. I had only borrowed. There was nothing to punish me for. I found a corner. I ate what I had taken. I let my body rest. And when I woke up, I opened my attribute panel and looked at the numbers, and for the first time, they didn't fill me with despair. The system explained 2 things that changed everything. First, the grape icons, the small clusters beside my stats, represented creatures that had submitted to me. I could recruit up to 10 at this level. Second, experience points came from hunting, and those experience points could either strengthen me directly or be spent on my subordinates. Subordinates. The word sat heavy in my mind. I didn't have any yet. I was one ant, alone, worth nothing. But I had been a man once who built something from nothing. I knew where the work began. I found a lone male ant. It was about 2.5 meters away by my new scale of perception, close enough to track, far enough that it hadn't noticed me. I watched its movement, timed the gaps between its steps. Then I closed the distance and attacked. Clean. Simple. 1 kill. 1 experience point. I stood over the result and told myself not to feel disappointed. Every structure starts with a single unit. Every empire starts with a single decision. I went hunting again. I spent a morning chasing cockroaches. After all of it, every scramble, every bite, every narrow escape, my strength had only increased by 1/3. And my body was paying the price. Prolonged hunting without recovery was depleting me faster than the gains could compensate. I stopped and recalculated. Hunting alone is too slow. I need a team. Not someday, now. I scanned my surroundings and found what I needed. An ordinary soldier ant, alone, nearly 1 centimeter long. To my current body, it was enormous. Intimidating. The kind of target that made something primal in me want to retreat. I didn't retreat. I waited for the moment its attention moved away from me. Just a fraction of a second. That was all I needed. I grabbed it by the stalk and lifted. The soldier thrashed immediately, violent and furious, sending alarm signals through its antennae in every direction. I felt the signal ripple outward, a call for reinforcements. Around us, ants began to move. No honor in you, I thought, holding on. Not even a single one-on-one. But I didn't let go. I sent my own signal through the contact, simple, direct, repeating like a demand I refused to stop making. Submit to me, or die. The soldier fought. I held it. The surrounding ants grew closer. I kept holding. And then, the system chimed. Congratulations, host. You've won first place. The soldier unstilled in my grip. The surrounding ants, without their leader's distress signal, slowed and scattered. I looked at the new icon on my panel. 1 grape. 1 subordinate. And the stats beside it were, somehow, higher than mine. I stared at that for a long moment. Then I made my decision. You're soldier 1, I said through the only language we had between us. From now on, you answer to me. I want you to understand what that first follower meant to me. It wasn't just strategic. It wasn't just efficient. It was the first proof that I could build something in this body, that I wasn't just surviving, I was becoming. I thought of Liu Ruyan. The name tasted like iron. She had taken my company. She had arranged my death. She had looked at everything I built and decided she wanted it without me in it. In this life, I promise myself, I will repay you tenfold. I disguised myself again, slipped back into the worker column, and returned to the storage room with Soldier 1 moving somewhere behind me. I ate well for the first time. I rested deliberately. And when I emerged into the next hunt, I wasn't alone. 2.5 hours. That's how long the battle lasted to fill my 10 ordinary slots. I won't tell you it was graceful, because it wasn't. It was chaos, coordinated chaos, with Soldier 1 and I moving through smaller ant populations, pressuring them, overwhelming them one by one until the column behind me had grown to 10. 10 cattail soldiers, standing in formation on a withered leaf, waiting for my next command. I had never felt power like that in any body I'd ever worn. To succeed, I thought, looking at them, one must first go mad and fight. I led them into our first real battle, a strike against a nearby ant colony. Small scale, controlled, a test of what we could do together. We won. And when the system notification came, 500 experience points, I let myself feel it. Not pride. Not quite. But something close. The satisfaction of a man who has started building something real. War costs. I learned that the hard way when Soldier 1, Pu Tsong, as I sometimes thought of him, came back from one of our engagements missing a limb, his combat strength gutted to almost nothing. The system told me it would take 3 days for him to recover naturally. 3 days I couldn't afford to waste. I asked if there was another way. The system confirmed. Experience points could accelerate recovery. I spent them without hesitating. Watched over 100 points drain from my panel and felt the sting of it. But when I looked at Pu Tsong moving cleanly again, when I felt the full strength of my small column restored, I knew the math was right. Listen to my command, I said. Everyone, rest mode. Let time heal what's left. And then, in the quiet that followed, I heard something. Sobbing. It took me more than 10 minutes of crawling to reach the source. A windowsill. Glass. And through it, my daughter. Lin Bebe sat hunched over a desk, her small shoulders shaking, a teddy bear clutched against her chest. The same bear I had given her. She was calling for me. Daddy, when are you coming back? Bebe misses you. I ran across the glass. I scrambled back and forth, frantic, screaming through a body that couldn't scream. She couldn't see me. She couldn't hear me. The glass separated us like a wall between 2 different worlds. I watched her cry herself to exhaustion. I watched her slide forward onto the desk and slowly fall asleep, still holding the bear, still calling for me in the last fragmented whispers before sleep took her. Bebe, Daddy couldn't protect you. It's all Daddy's fault. And then, from the master bedroom next door, noise. Voices. Laughter that didn't belong in that house. Liu Ruyan. The name ignited something in me that the cold and the fear and the hunger had not been able to touch. When I become strong, I'll make you pay 100-fold. The more pleasure you have now, the more pain you'll suffer later. I looked at the villa that had once been mine, at the life being lived inside it without me, and I turned away from the glass and back toward the dark, because the only thing that would help Bebe right now was strength. I have to become stronger. I have to. I hunted without stopping. Every morning, every dusk, every quiet hour between, I moved through the terrain around the villa, targeting what I could reach, pushing every experience point toward the edge of the next level. And one morning, the system spoke. Congratulations, host. All your attributes have reached their current level's peak. Do you wish to level up? I didn't even answer with words. The choice was made before the question finished. The light that followed was unlike anything I had experienced. It moved through my body from the inside out, and when it receded, the world looked different. My body had grown from 6 or 7 millimeters to 1.5 centimeters. My lifespan, which had been ticking down from 30 days like a death sentence, extended. My panel changed in ways that would have taken me an hour to read. And the system gave me something I hadn't earned by hunting. A skill. Congratulations, host. You have gained the insight skill, allowing you to view a target's current attributes. I tested it immediately, opening a strange secondary sense like a new eye that looked sideways at the world. It worked. I could see things now that had been invisible before. I had barely absorbed this when a commotion erupted nearby. Hundreds of creatures had gathered in the grass, drawn by the noise of my upgrade, or simply by chance. In the middle of them, a standoff. A centipede the length of a finger, facing a praying mantis. Both coiled. Both waiting. A stone broke the silence, thrown from somewhere, by someone or something I never identified. And the two creatures launched themselves at each other. I activated insight. The numbers surfaced. Both creatures were several times stronger than me. Both were apex targets I had absolutely no business fighting. I watched from the edge. Patient. Strategic. The mantis drove its claws through the centipede. The centipede, in its final moment, bit back. They stilled. They collapsed. And I moved in. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have gained 500 experience points. Congratulations, host. You have gained 750 experience points. I stood over the wreckage of a battle I hadn't fought and harvested the rewards of two creatures who had destroyed each other. The stronger the enemy, the greater the return. I tucked the lesson away. I would use it again. The next days were expansion. Constant, relentless expansion. I moved from colony to colony, targeting the weak, bypassing the overwhelming, building my numbers with the patience of a man who understood that momentum was more valuable than speed. Within 2 days, my team of 10 had grown to 99. And then I made a mistake. Not a strategic one. Not a tactical one. A mistake born from the one thing I still hadn't fully accounted for in this new world. Humans. I had led my column into the heart of a nearby ant colony, running a deception, using friendly signals to move smoothly through their tunnels. My ants moved around me. The mission was progressing, and then the ground above us filled with mist. I smelled it before I understood it. The ants around me began to fall, one by one, then in clusters, then in waves. The mist drifted through the tunnels, invisible and absolute, and every ant it touched simply stopped. Insecticide. Someone above was spraying the entire nest. The soldier ant that reached me first couldn't even finish its message before it collapsed at my feet. I felt the weight of what was happening settle over me like a stone. Almost the entire colony, gone. I didn't let myself process the grief of that. Not then. There wasn't time. Everyone, listen up. Dig an escape tunnel. The remaining soldiers, barely 20, attacked the earth in the direction I pointed. Their legs moved with a desperation that I felt in my own chest. Minutes stretched into something that felt infinite. The mist kept coming. The entrance sealed behind us as the other ants piled what they could into the gap, buying us seconds, buying us the length of one breath after another. And then the tunnel broke through. Fresh air. I have never in either of my lives appreciated anything the way I appreciated that first breath of open air. We pulled ourselves out into the light, a dozen survivors where there had been nearly 100. I stood on the surface and looked around and understood something new. Ants are insignificant. That will change. But for now, I am insignificant. I looked up and saw her. Liu Ruyan. Standing in the open, directing men with shovels, watching the nest being excavated. Looking for survivors. Looking for the source of whatever had been bothering her manicured, stolen life. I watched her from the grass. You didn't kill me this time, but I will repay you 100-fold. And then I turned away. I needed to find somewhere safer. Somewhere to grow without the shadow of human activity hanging over every tunnel. Behind the villa, I remembered, there was a barren hill. A small lake. Space. I led what remained of my column toward the forest. I built underground. This was a deliberate choice. The red ant colonies I had seen before built their nests as mounds, visible, obvious, targets. I would build into the earth itself, using the roots of a tree stump as my roof and my camouflage. My soldiers dug while I scouted. And then my scouting revealed something I hadn't planned for. A queen. She was unlike any ant I had encountered. Larger. More aware. When I tried to move toward her with the same pressure I used on soldiers, she didn't flinch. She looked back at me with an autonomy that I had not seen in any creature in this new existence. The system confirmed what I already felt. This queen ant has mutated. She possesses extremely strong autonomy. It is not recommended that the host use violence. Try to influence her with love. I stared at the system notification for a long moment. I am a human soul, I said to the empty air. You want me to influence an ant with love? I moved on. The territory was dangerous. This was the second thing I learned about my new location. The ant lions were the immediate problem, pit traps in the sand, funnel-shaped, invisible until you were already sliding down the sides. Any ordinary ant that fell in was simply gone. I couldn't have that in my territory. I selected 3 of my best soldiers, the ones I'd enhanced with experience points, the ones whose stats had grown beyond the norm, and I sent them to clear the ant lions out. Enhanced soldiers against ant lion traps. The clearing was systematic, precise, the kind of operation that reminded me, watching from above, that I had built something real. While they worked, I returned to the surrounding area and began collecting ordinary ants from nearby nests. My numbers needed to grow, and the fastest way to grow them was to absorb existing populations. I was moving through the 3rd nest, smoothly, comfortably, feeling confident, when I stopped. Something ahead was different. The ant I was looking at wasn't like the others. She was. The system chimed before I could finish the observation. Ding. Detected care from the future. Shall I issue a command? Success rate. 200%. I blinked, looked at the ant in front of me again. That works too, I admitted to myself. I'm not going to refuse something offered freely. I returned with thousands. The sweep of the surrounding nests had added population faster than I had expected. Small nests folded into my column one after another, their workers following the current of stronger pheromones, their soldiers either submitting or being left behind. We were becoming something. And then the black ants appeared. Several of them, larger than anything in my force, emerged ahead of us. Aggressive. Territorial. The kind of ants that attacked first and assessed later. I made a rapid calculation. We were outnumbered and outmatched in a direct confrontation. Run. Not retreat, run. At full speed, back toward my territory, leading the column in a controlled sprint that didn't become a rout. The black ants followed but didn't commit to a full pursuit. When we crossed back into our space, they stopped at the edge and watched. I watched back. I didn't have to wait long. It was the smell of food that drew them. I had barely finished directing the storage of supplies when the outer perimeter sent an alarm. Dozens of enormous black ants surrounding the entrance to the nest. Their size alone made my current forces look like a different category of creature. They were 10 times the size of my fire ants. One-on-one, I could probably manage. But dozens? With more potentially behind them? Retreat! Everyone, back into the burrow. We retreated. I watched through the entrance as the black ants took everything we'd brought back, every piece of food, every resource I had worked to accumulate, and I let them take it. Because the math was simple. Resources could be replaced. My colony could not. You just wait, I promised the empty air where the black ants had been. The system heard me. A quest appeared. Option 1. Find the fierce ants. Seek revenge. Recover the goods. Earn massive experience. Option 2. Endure. Develop steadily. Earn the title. King of Dogs. I read option 2 exactly once. Choosing to endure is not in my nature. I choose revenge. At dusk, I led 90 ants to the black ant nest. The entrance was lightly guarded, most of the colony was still inside, resting after what they probably considered a successful raid. They hadn't imagined we'd be back this fast. That's always the problem with bullies. They never expect you to return. I used insight to scan the guards. Strong, but not impossibly so. Charging into the depths of a black ant nest with 90 soldiers would be suicide. I needed something else. I found it 20 meters away. A water pit. I stood at the edge of it and felt the plan form all at once. It was almost elegant. Dig a ditch, I ordered. A long one. Curved. Leading directly to the entrance of the cave. My soldiers worked in coordinated silence, dozens of legs moving earth, shaping the channel with the focus of creatures that understood only direction and speed. And then one enormous head appeared at the cave entrance. A black ant, sensing something wrong, emerging to investigate. Now, open the channel. The earth broke. The water moved. And then it was not trickling, it was rushing. A torrent that followed the curved channel straight into the black ant nest, filling the tunnels, rising through every chamber, taking everything. Ding! Congratulations, host! You have gained 8,000 experience points. 8,000. From one nest. I stood at the edge of the channel as the water settled, and I felt something shift in my understanding of this world. I hadn't fought my way through that colony, I had redirected the earth against it. Strategy beats strength. Always. Level up, I told the system. Now, the golden light came again, and this time, my body grew from 1.5 centimeters to 2.5. My lifespan extended to 1 year. My team capacity expanded to 1,000. And I received a new skill. Flying Needle. Effective range. 1 meter. Can be used with venom. Needles regrow after 3 days. A ranged attack. 1 meter was almost nothing at human scale. At ant scale, it was everything. That night, I went back to the villa. I moved through the rooms I had once owned like a ghost pressing its face against the glass of the living world. And I heard them talking about Bebe. If you ask me, I should have sent that little thing to the orphanage a long time ago. Now it's much quieter. She was already gone. My daughter, the child I had found on my doorstep, the one I had raised as my own flesh and blood, had been sent to an orphanage. The grief tried to undo me. I felt it move through my entire body like venom of a different kind. You are unforgivable. I didn't make a speech. I didn't declare anything out loud. I simply told the system to load every drop of venom I had onto my flying needles. And I fired. I used the full arsenal, every needle, every drop, on the 2 people sitting in what had been my home. Then I left, because the effort had cost me everything. My body entered its weakened state immediately, energy drained to nothing. I made it back to the nest. And I collapsed. 3 days later, I woke up surrounded by the sound of fighting. My own ants were killing each other. I pushed myself upright, confused and still half empty from the venom depletion, and tried to understand what I was seeing. My 3 closest soldiers had formed a ring around me. Beyond them, 20 or 30 of my direct soldiers formed another ring. And beyond that ring, a battle raged between 2 factions of my own colony. And then I heard her voice. Are you Hua? He won't last tonight. Once he's dead, this nest will be mine to decide. The queen I had been trying to build a relationship with, the mutated one, the one the system had told me to win with patience, had staged a coup while I lay unconscious. I stared at the battle around me and felt something cold and clear settle into my mind. The system had told me that after submitting, the bond between servant and master was strong. What the system had apparently not told me was that the bond required me to be conscious and functional to maintain. A weakened host had 0 threat level, 0 charm. The bond had simply dissolved. Fortunately, I thought, looking at the soldiers still standing around me, not everyone left. My 3 generals, my oldest subordinates, they had stayed. I pulled myself upright, let the aura I had built settle back around me like armor, and walked through the fighting colony until I was standing in front of Hua. She saw me. She trembled. Master, listen to my excuses. Stop talking, I said. Bingy, teach him what it means to be loyal. The punishment was controlled, not lethal. Enough. And then, when the dust settled, something unexpected happened. Hua looked at me, at the ant who had just put down her rebellion without breaking a sweat, and the fear in her expression slowly shifted into something else. 30 points of favorability. Just from looking at me. The bird came while I was still recovering. I heard the news from Binga before I saw the problem. While I had been unconscious for 3 days, a hunting bird had taken up residence outside the nest. Every day, it came. Every day, the ants fed it to make it leave. Every day, it came back. A buffet. It had decided my nest was a buffet. Today, I said, I'll let you taste what it means to face the king. I emerged into the open. The bird saw me, stopped, startled by my size, thrown by the wrongness of what it was seeing. It had never encountered an ant like me. It hesitated. That hesitation was all I needed. I fired. The flying needle struck directly. The bird shrieked, lurched, lunged at me in pain and fury. I dodged the first strike, tracked the second, read its pattern. After several exchanges, the bird's body simply failed. The venom moved faster than it could recover from. It collapsed in the grass, unable to rise. Congratulations, host. You have gained 7,000 experience points. 1 bird. 7,000 experience points. From now on, I told my 3 closest soldiers, you are my imperial generals. General 1. General 2. General 3. I gave them all 8,000 experience points between them. Watched the golden light take each one. When it faded, the ants in front of me were not the same creatures they had been. Not bad. Not bad at all. The rat nest came next. I had seen the mice moving in and out of a large hole a few dozen meters from our territory for days. Every observation confirmed the same thing. Large creatures, high experience value, and a population large enough to matter. My generals led 3 squads into the hole. The target, sleeping baby rats. The execution, precise injection of toxins, paralysis, then extraction. And by ant, the young rats were carried out of the nest and back toward our column. Efficient, clean, not a single loss. I stood at the edge of the hole and felt the pride of a commander watching a trained force perform exactly as designed. And then 2 adult rats appeared at the entrance. They saw what we had done to their nest. They charged without hesitation, no threat display, no warning, directly into the column, scattering ants in every direction with the sheer force of their momentum. The column broke. I felt it like a blow. Regroup. 3 of you, take one rat. I'll take the other. I closed with my rat the way I had learned to close with everything in this world. Watch the rhythm first, find the moment, then commit completely. But this rat was fast, and strong, and angry in the specific way that parents get when their children are threatened. I dodged, circled, dodged again, and then I bit it, latched on, injected 20% of my venom directly through the contact, then released and watched the rat's legs slowly begin to betray it. It fell. The ant swarmed over it before it could rise again. I stood over the fallen rat and breathed, and then the ground shook. Not metaphorically. Something enormous was moving through the grass behind us. I turned. The Rat King was the size of a small mountain by my scale. Its body blocked the light. The system spoke. Warning. The host is still a weakling compared to this target. Retreat is advised. Doing so will earn you the title. King of Dogs. Get lost, I told the system. I looked at the Rat King. I looked at what remained of my force. Retreat, everyone except the elites. Take the spoils. Move. The bulk of the army peeled away. Only my strongest remained. I ran the numbers. My flying needles couldn't land. The Rat King was too fast, too large, too unpredictable. Every time I tried to aim, it was already somewhere else. Slow it down. Bite its legs. 2 ants received the signal. They moved in from the sides, low and fast, and bit. The Rat King roared and spun, but the bites had done their work. Its movement stuttered. Just slightly. Just enough. Everyone, jump on it. Concentrate on the legs. The ants moved like a wave. The Rat King became covered in a living carpet of attackers, each one adding a fraction of venom to the total, the sum of all those fractions becoming something the enormous creature could not ignore. Its speed dropped to almost nothing. 10% of venom remaining. I made the decision before I finished thinking it. I closed the distance, found the angle, bit directly, and held, pouring everything I had left into the contact. The Rat King fought it. For a long time, it fought. And then it stopped. Ding. Congratulations. You have gained 1,000 experience points, 4,000 experience points, 20,000 experience points, 25,000 total from one battle. I stood in the silence that followed and understood something about myself that I hadn't known before. I could fight things that should have destroyed me. I could win. System, level up. The light came, and with it came the biggest transformation yet. My body grew from 2.5 centimeters to 4. My team capacity reached 10,000. My venom reserves expanded. My flying needle range doubled. And the system gave me something that changed the rules of everything. Mental perception. The ability to communicate across species. I stared at the notification. Interspecies communication. I was an ant. And I could now talk to other creatures. The implications unfolded slowly in my mind, each one bigger than the last. Animals. Insects. Other ants. Other cats. Dogs. Birds. Humans. Not yet. The gap between species determines the mental energy cost. Humans would be expensive. But the door was open. The cat came without warning. One moment I was processing the upgrade. The next, an enormous cat face had appeared directly in front of me, eyes wide with the specific curiosity that cats reserve for things that should not exist. I was 4 centimeters long. To a cat, I was the most interesting thing in the world. All ants returned to the nest. Now, the signal went out. The colony moved. But my 3 generals, already bonded enough to receive my meaning rather than just my commands, looked at the cat and looked at me and refused to leave. This cat is not something we can handle right now. Retreat. This is an order. They went. I stood alone between my nest and the cat. The cat lowered its head, sniffed, pawed at the ground near me. There are rats over there, I told it through my new skill, projecting the thought with everything the ability had to offer. Fresh ones. Large ones. Much more interesting than me. The cat paused, looked at the rats, looked at me, looked at the rats again, and walked away. I released a breath I hadn't known I was holding. My strength is still not enough, I admitted to myself. Even a stray cat can crush me. But then a sound came from inside a cage near the cat's path, frantic, terrified, and directed at me. Master! Master, save me! I'm afraid! I blinked, I watched it carry the cage away, and I followed, because the creature in the cage had called me master. That wasn't nothing. I tracked the orange cat through the growing dark, staying far enough back that it couldn't see me, close enough that I never lost the scent. It wandered. It circled. It eventually settled beneath a large tree, dropped the cage carelessly nearby, and fell asleep with the speed of a creature that had no concept of consequence. Youth, I thought, watching it, just lies down and sleeps. I approached the cage. I reached it. A car drove past. The cat woke up, grabbed the cage, and bolted. I stared at the space where the cage had been, and then I heard a car door close, and a voice I recognized like a blade between my ribs. Liu Ruyan. She was here, looking worse than I had ever seen her. Whatever the venom from my flying needles had done to her body had kept her in the ICU for days, according to what I overheard. She had survived. Of course she had survived. The car door opened, and Bebe stepped out. I froze. My mind processed what I was seeing in layers, first the shape of her, then her face, then the context, then the full horror of what was happening. Liu Ruyan had sold my daughter. Not metaphorically, not legally. She had handed Bebe to human traffickers like a piece of property she had no more use for. Bebe, come with Uncle. Uncle will take you to find Daddy. I heard my daughter's voice answer. Is Daddy real? Can you really take me to find Daddy? The innocence of it destroyed something in me. These men were not taking her to find Daddy. The pickup truck started moving. I ran. I reached the car in the last second before it would have been too far. Grabbed the undercarriage. Held on. The rain started. I held on through all of it, climbing eventually to where I could cling near a window, listening to my daughter's voice on the other side of the glass. Daddy, she said to the dark inside the car. Bebe has grown up. Please don't hide from Bebe anymore. Daddy's here, I said to the rain and the glass and the night. Daddy's here. The mountain compound was quiet from the outside. Crying came from within. Whoever's crying, I'll throw you into the mountains. The silence that followed was worse than the crying. I waited until nightfall. Every instinct I developed in this body told me that daytime inside that courtyard meant birds, meant human hands, meant predators I couldn't account for yet. I waited. When the dark came, I moved. Through the window, I found Bebe curled in a corner. Her body was shaking. Her face was wet. And she was not the only child in that room. The man inside was explaining the schedule to someone. No rush. We just sent one batch away. The next pickup is in 10 days. 10 days. I held onto that number like a lifeline. 10 days was enough time. I need to move, I told myself. I need to grow. I need to come back with enough force to burn this place down. I turned away from my daughter's window and I ran. Back at the nest, I did not sleep. I called every unit together and I told them what I had found and what we were going to do. All soldiers, launch a full-scale attack. But this wasn't a surprise raid. This was a migration. The entire colony, moving as one. Supplies included. Every resource we had built, relocated toward the mountain compound. We had 9 days. Before we left, I had one stop to make. The orange cat was asleep under a different tree this time. I approached the cat. System, load 90% toxin. Flying needle. Ready. I fired. Liu Ruyan, I said through the telepathy skill, projecting into her mind from the dark. Close your eyes and you'll see me. Because I'm your nightmare. The mental energy cost was enormous. I felt it drain in a rush that left me swaying. But I had her attention. Who's speaking? Who are you? Our real show has only just begun, I told her. Don't be impatient. Then I cut the connection before it took everything I had left. In the villa, I heard Liu Ruyan demanding answers from Cao Dongfeng, demanding explanations for things that had no rational explanation. Let her demand. The confusion was part of the plan. The sewers. My generals had been performing there for days, building experience, building numbers, building the kind of combat fluency that only comes from real battles fought in real conditions. But the cockroaches were no longer enough. I changed the target. Saw rats. The rats were larger, stronger, and more dangerous than the cockroaches, 2 or 3 ants. That's all it took to bring down one sewer rat now. We swept through the tunnels like a professional force through territory it owned. And then the system spoke again. Ding. Congratulations, host. Level up successful. I had a new skill. Scent tracking. Effective range, 100 meters. And my venom reserves had grown to 0.5 milliliter. 0.5 milliliter of my current venom. I thought about what that number meant against a human body. Everyone, return to base. Grand victory banquet tonight. Tomorrow, we rescue Bebe. I reached the compound 3 days before the deadline. I arrived in time to hear the broker, Brother Chiong, confirming with someone on the phone that the pickup was moving up. That Bebe was going to be transferred before the 10 days were done. I heard Bebe fighting. Let me go. I want to find Daddy. Liars. You're all liars. I was already moving before I finished processing the words. A landslide on the road. The car couldn't leave. Brother Chong and his accomplices were stuck at the compound for the night. I stood in the rain and looked up at the sky and thought, even the heavens have opened their eyes. At my command, I said to the dark, prepare to move. The night was storm quiet. Inside, voices, laughter, the specific sound of people who believed themselves safe. Outside, murderous intent in perfect silence. I waited until they were separated. 2 of them in the bedroom, 1 in the car. All members, target the man beside you. On my command, inject and withdraw immediately. The ants moved like water, finding every crack. The fat man felt it first, a wave of something wrong, spreading from 100 bites simultaneously. He started to rise, disoriented, swatting at things he couldn't see clearly. I had already aimed at the skinny man. I fired. The needle found the carotid. The venom moved fast. The skinny man clutched his throat. Tried to call out. Couldn't. He went down. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have gained 80,000 experience points. The fat man, somehow still functional despite everything the ants had injected, found me. He hit me at a wild swing, but accurate enough to send me tumbling across the floor. I landed hard. Checked myself. Still intact. Your defense is stronger than it used to be, I noted, rolling upright. The fat man was yelling now, panicking, storming toward the door. I chased. He made it outside, took 2 steps, and then the toxins that had been building in his system all night finally reached the threshold. He fell. He convulsed. I looked down at him from the ground. You have done so many evil deeds, I said. You deserved this. Brother Cheong came running from the car. He saw what had happened. He saw me. He looked between me and the bodies of his associates and made the only decision that someone in his position could make. He ran. The car wouldn't start, still blocked by the landslide debris. He abandoned it and fled on foot into the dark. Air squad, track him. Don't let him out of sight. I didn't chase immediately. I had something more important to check first. The children. I found the skinny man's phone in the wreckage of the room. I carried it to the window and dropped it through. Then I activated my telepathy and reached into the room. Little friends, look at the ground. Silence. Then, one small voice. There's a huge ant. I'm not a bad person, I said. I'm here to save you. The people who hurt you have been dealt with. There's a phone on the ground. Use it. Call the police. Tell them where you are. A longer silence. Are you Ant-Man? I felt something move through me that I didn't have a name for. I am the light in the darkness, I said. And then, because I couldn't stop myself. Baby, I'm here. Daddy's here. I'm sorry I can't come to you right now, but I'm here. If she heard me, she didn't know it was me. She would know, someday, when I was strong enough for it to matter. I turned away from the window and ordered the colony to begin relocating. The police came fast. Liu Ruyan came with them. I watched from the trees as she stepped out of the official car, as Bebe was brought out of the compound, as the performance of concern moved across Liu Ruyan's face with the precision of something she had practiced. Bebe, are you all right? I was so worried. My daughter looked at her with the specific expression of a child who knows something is wrong but can't yet name it. Officer, Bebe said, this is Aunt Ruyan. But I don't like her. Captain Lee, standing nearby, reviewed the scene report. Massive ant corpses. A poison stinger that matched previous incidents. No suspects they could identify. Ant again, someone muttered. Ants can kill human traffickers now? Liu Ruyan looked around the scene with narrowing eyes. These ants seem to be connected to us, she said carefully. We've been very unlucky lately. Someone mentioned something about a mutant creature online. Don't be ridiculous, Cao Dongfeng said beside her. I watched from the trees. You think I'm ridiculous, I said to myself. Good. Keep thinking that. Because Liu Ruyan was now scared. And a scared person makes mistakes. I let her leave. Not because I couldn't reach her. Because timing matters. And then, as she walked away, I sent one final thought into her mind through the last of my available telepathy. There are still ants nearby, I said. I unleashed my aura on a small nest I had identified earlier. Thousands of fire ants, responding to the pressure, swarmed toward Liu Ruyan's feet. She screamed, scrambled, climbed. I watched from a distance, already walking away. Take it slow, Liu Ruyan. We have all the time in the world. In the days that followed, I built. The underground fortress took shape beneath the roots of the stump, 5 meters long, 5 meters high, 3 meters wide. Independent ventilation, independent drainage, chambers for the generals, chambers for the high attribute ants, chambers for supply storage. Not a nest, a kingdom. And while the ants dug, I handled the cat's situation. The orange cat, the one who had been menacing me since the beginning, the one who had once seemed like an impossible obstacle, was now my target. I had spent weeks becoming something that could face it. The time had come. I activated telepathy and sent a single message into the orange cat's mind. Submitting to the King of Israel would be your greatest honor. Submit to me, or die. The cat looked at me with the expression of a creature who has just heard something so absurd that its brain is still trying to process it. Then it decided I was bluffing and charged. It was fast. Much faster than I expected. The first hit sent me airborne. I landed, rolled, found my feet before the second hit came, and the second hit came immediately. Then the third. I was being batted around the clearing like a toy. Fine, I said, spitting dirt. Fine. You want to fight? We fight. I circled. Read the timing. And the next time the cat's paw came down, I wasn't where it expected me to be. I bit. Hard. And held. The cat howled and tried to shake me loose, but I was already around its leg, already latched, already refusing to release. System flowed 20% venom. The cat's movement slowed. Slightly. Then more than slightly. It kept fighting. I kept holding. Submit to me or die. I said it once. I'll say it as many times as it takes. The cat looked at me with its enormous eyes, pain behind them, and beneath the pain, something else. Something that recognized it was losing. I'm not just an ant, I told it. I'm the king of ants. And one day I won't just be the king of ants. Do you understand what I'm offering you? The cat went still. It didn't submit immediately. Animals rarely do. There's a specific moment that comes before submission, a moment of total exhaustion, when the part of the brain that insists on independence simply runs out of fuel. That moment came. Congratulations, host. You have obtained the orange cat. I stood on the ground beside the enormous, panting animal and felt the weight of what had just happened. From now on, I said, your name is Big Flower. Big Flower changed everything. Transportation, supply runs, combat support. The three problems that had been slowing my growth were solved in a single bonding. And then I went looking for more. 2 stray cats, one white and one tabby, became Big White and Big Lee within a week, each one subdued through a combination of Big Flower's combat pressure, my own enhanced stats, and the systematic injection of just enough venom to make the point. 3 cats, an army of 10,000 ants, and a human servant who would come later. But that was later. For now, there was Bebe's 7th birthday, and I was outside her window watching her blow out candles alone, and the grief of it was too large for my small body to contain. Bebe, I said to the glass and the dark, when the time is right, Daddy will appear before you, and he will make you proud. Cao Dongfeng, inside, was saying something about boarding school, about getting the child out of sight. Bebe is worth money anyway. I closed my eyes. Brother Chong had been a loose end for too long. He had escaped the mountain compound. He had seen my face. He was running a fake rescue live stream, torturing stray cats for audience sympathy while pocketing the donation money. He had also, in the process of running his operation, captured Big Flower. That was the mistake that sealed his fate. When I found Big Flower through scent tracking, injured, caged, her leg deliberately broken, I felt the specific kind of anger that doesn't make noise. The quiet kind. The planning kind. I reached Big Flower through telepathy while Brother Cheong's live stream played to thousands of viewers who believed they were watching a genuine rescue. Don't resist. Let them treat the injury. Rest. The system spent 10,000 experience points to accelerate Big Flower's healing. And in the dead of night, the cage opened. Brother Cheong had 3 associates. By the time the night was done, the math had simplified considerably. I won't narrate every moment of that operation, not because it wasn't significant, but because the significance of it isn't in the details. It's in what it proved. I was no longer a creature that had to avoid humans. I was something they should fear. The final accounting. 180,000 experience points, split across the operation. My level jumped from 5 to 6. My body grew from 8 centimeters to 12. My scent tracking and telepathy extended to 500 meters. My strength, speed, and defense all reached the baseline value of a normal adult human. 12 centimeters long. Human strength. An army behind me. 3 cats at my side. And a system that told me I now had the ability, under the right conditions, to accept a human servant. I looked at that notification for a long time. A human servant. The conditions were demanding. The host's mental strength had to overwhelm the target, or the target had to choose submission genuinely and completely. It's not impossible, the system said. I believed it. The man with the drone had been following me for weeks. I had spotted him twice, let him go twice, and decided both times that he was more useful free than eliminated, as long as he didn't expose what he'd seen. When I caught him a third time, pressed between the 3 cats and the army and my own 12-centimeter presence, the negotiation was brief. Submit to me. Make me your king. Or don't leave this clearing. The man, Luo Yu, I would learn his name later, looked at the ants on his legs, at the cats surrounding him, at me. He thought about running. I could see it in the way his weight shifted. I nodded, and the ants moved. He screamed. He stopped thinking about running. By morning, he was mine. Not because I had broken him, though the night had been long and the venom relentless, but because at the end of it, when I offered him the choice again, something in him had genuinely shifted. He had seen what I was. He had seen what I could do. And I think, somewhere beneath the fear, he had recognized that whatever side I was on was probably the better one to be on. Ding! Congratulations, host! You have accepted your first human servant. I had waited a very long time for that notification. Liu Ruyan was running. I found out through Luo Yu, through the networks and conversations of a world I could now access through a human intermediary in ways I hadn't been able to before. She had liquidated everything. The company shares. The assets. She was applying for immigration and planning to disappear. She knows, I realized. She's figured out enough to know she's not safe here. I couldn't let her leave. I moved immediately. The villa was fortified now, cameras, bodyguards, and 2 enormous fighting dogs at the entrance whose stats, when I scanned them with insight, were several times higher than Big Flower's. This was going to be different from anything before. I sent Big Flower back to bring the army. Every unit. Everything we had. And I waited. The morning Liu Ruyan tried to leave, I was in the tree above the driveway. She came out with luggage, with Cao Dongfeng limping behind her, missing a leg now, the consequence of some fallout between them that I hadn't been there to witness. She had used him and discarded him, the same way she used and discarded everyone. He was begging her not to leave. She wasn't listening. I watched her reach the car. I fired. The needle found its mark, but the dogs were already moving. They had sensed the attack before I even released it. Enormous, fast, trained specifically for this kind of threat. Big Flower took the first one. Big White and Big Li tangled with the second. But Liu Ruyan was already in the car. Drive! She was gone. The car disappeared down the hill while I was still fighting the dogs. I released the fight. Let the dogs go. Cao Dongfeng, abandoned in the driveway, was running toward the forest. Toward my forest. My air squadron had already been tracking him. Lead him home, I said. He stumbled into my base camp like a man who had run out of every option simultaneously. He saw the ants. He saw the cats. He saw me. And I watched the specific calculation move across his face, the one where a man decides that what he's looking at can't be real, and therefore he can manage it. Calm down, he told himself, visibly. Ants. Kittens. Human strength. I can handle this. He swung at me. I withstood it. The look on his face when I didn't move, when the swing that should have ended an insect simply didn't, that look was worth something. Cao Dongfeng, I said. Do you want to know why you're here? He didn't answer. He was still processing. When you and Liu Ruyan arranged my car accident, did you think about the pain I was in? When you handed my daughter to human traffickers, did you think about my fury? The silence that followed lasted exactly long enough. What? You're Zhu Xiaoqiang? You're supposed to be dead. Thanks to you, I said. Zhu Xiaoqiang is dead. What's standing in front of you is something else. By the time the dogs arrived, the 2 enormous fighters from the villa, following their master's scent, Cao Dongfeng was already covered in ants and completely immobile. I led the cats into the trees. The dogs came in fast, confident, not expecting an ambush. I dropped from above onto the first one, found the cervical nerve, and bit with everything my body had. The dog went down in seconds. Big Flower pulled the second one away from the cats, giving me the angle. Same result. I stood in the dark of the forest, surrounded by everything I had built, and I thought about where I had started. A frozen bear ant, dying in a lamp nest. Decimal values on a system panel. Nothing. And now, an army, 3 cats, a human servant, 12 centimeters of body that carried the strength of a normal man, a kingdom underground, a scent that could track targets 500 meters away, a voice that could cross the barrier between species. Liu Ruyan had escaped, but she was still in this world, and I was not done. I remember what I told my generals, that first night after building the underground fortress. I climbed to the highest point of the stump that served as our roof, and I looked out at the forest that we had claimed, and I said, we are ants. We will always be ants. But there is no rule that says an ant cannot be king. Bei was in boarding school now, safe, at least physically safe, with other children and teachers and walls between her and the people who had tried to sell her. She didn't know I was out here. She didn't know I was building something that would reach her one day. But she was safe, and that was enough for now. I thought about what the system had told me early on, that the greater the difference between species, the more mental energy telepathy costs. I had talked to cats. I had talked to ants. I had talked to rats and birds and one terrified human with a drone. Humans were expensive, but not impossible, and with every level I gained, the gap narrowed. Liu Ruyan, I said to the dark, wherever you've run to, I will find you. Whatever wall you've built, I will go through it or under it or around it. Because that's what ants do. We find the cracks, and we never stop. What do you think, will he be able to take revenge and meet his daughter?